I know that it's extraordinarily hard. I know we're all exhausted and sleep deprived. I suspect some of you almost fell asleep during that minute, like I did. What my colleagues Javier and Juan Carlos said last about the depth of our gratitude to the ACO. The fact that we have over 100 volunteers, that means something like 1 in 4 or 5 families is volunteering to help each other right now when the majority of our community has been impacted by this disaster. Immense gratitude to all the staff and faculty who have been working tirelessly, many of whom lost everything and are still showing up to work. Ian, Wednesday morning, when things were still burning, against my good advice at least, went up, to look at our campuses, has been working around the clock with all of us, doing a lot of work. Everybody's working really hard. Some of it's behind the scenes to try to get our kids together in person as soon as possible. That's everybody's top priority. All avenues are being explored. I think I've read in the paper and I've heard them, people keep saying our schools burned down and, our campuses were destroyed, but our school is still here. Our school was so here last night in community. So the charge that we all have in front of us is to find a new campus or campuses for our school. But our school is still here. And we're gonna try to move quickly because I know we all need whatever we can get of sleep. But I just wanted to start with that. There is no oral communications. Consent agenda, there's no consent agenda this time? Okay, discussion items. Would somebody like to, so we're on to number 4, discussion items. Oh, these are just discussions, so I don't need a motion. Is the financial report coming from Christy today?
The board minutes we need to.
That's not on the agenda.
Oh, it's in the folder. It's in the consent items folder.
That's the only one, but it's not on the agenda, so that's just gonna have to wait till next time.
Next time. Yeah.
That's not urgent. So financial report, do we have one today, Ian?
I don't believe so. Christie's pretty quick. I don't believe so.
Christy's not available. I mean, I guess you'll have your executive director's report where you can roll in any financial info that you want to share.
Do we have any information about Newsom's expediting of the resources for schools, for public schools, and how that affects us?
Yeah, I think when we do the executive report.
Okay.
I don't believe we're going to have a financial report.
Yeah, everything
today.
just changed.
Yeah.
Okay. So that'll be February. So that brings us to Daniela. Did you want to offer a report today?
Yeah.
I know what the headline is.
So yes, thinking of the report for today, there was so much to report. So I have a report pre-fire and a report post-fire. I think I'd rather focus on the report post-fire.
Yeah.
And then, because there's a lot. So we, everybody has been in shock. So we started our efforts focused on the immediate needs of the families, collecting data, contacting families and parents immediately. We started that effort with our advisors. We collected our information, we organized it, so then we could see which families have lost their houses, which families have been displaced, and start evaluating, making an evaluation of the needs. So then we collaborated with the ACO, which has been fantastic. So they started reaching out to the families that are in need and organizing the resources, which has been the part that is, I think, at this point, very overwhelming for all of us. So thank goodness that we have the ACO that are so on it. We're getting so many offers for support and resources. So seeing which one is legit, how fast we can get that help. So the ACO has been fantastic at supporting that and getting the resources to the families that need the most. So that has been our first priority, given these urgent times. Sorry, I have this trying to be organized. One second, sorry. We've been engaged with teachers, with our advisors and staff. We've been meeting online, we've been meeting in person. Our main goal, it is to get our students back in person as fast as possible. That's what we all want. So even though we may have to do a portion, a very short term online, we are also planning on different opportunities for advisors and students in the community to get together. We are exploring, thinking out of the box. We still have to ensure student safety, of course. So we're looking at many different places. So I've been in touch with the city of Sierra Madre today, and it's the conversation started with them offering, or me asking and then them offering places for our community to get together, for our staff to have staff meetings in person. They've been very generous. They're offering both Memorial Park and Service Park, where we have a preschool.
Yeah, he's a field.
Yes, and the senior center, the amphitheater, they're offering like a lot of spaces for us. I've been going to be scheduling that. Tomorrow I'm going to meet with him. I'm going to try to push it a little bit more, see if we can get some spaces for childcare. But that's, again, we're exploring these.
There's also a YMCA right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I called today. But I don't want to speak too much because these are
Right.
things that we're exploring.
Right.
And there's just nothing that is, I just want the community to know that we are really thinking out of the box and looking at all the possibilities. We are also speaking with Meryl. She's sending a proposal today to work with this organization called Bono, and they look for childcare places, short-term childcare places. So apparently we have, again, this is all in the works, securing free childcare for 3 days next week for TK through first grade. This is one possibility. It's too short-term.
Yeah.
We need more time. So we are exploring these different childcare facilities. So even though we will have to, for again, short-term go online, that we will also include. We want to also include childcare because we do understand that that is one of the main needs of our families. And again, I can't say this enough. This is not something that we are really looking forward to go online. Sorry, this isn't happening. We also, G3 Academy in Sierra Madre offer their space 3 days a week from 9:30 to 11 to have yoga classes for free and sound baths for our staff. And the Dream Center, we just had a wonderful event and Garfield Park in South Pasadena. And the Dream Center was there and then made the announcement that they're going to provide Chromebooks for all ESL students.
That's incredible.
Incredible. They say as of tomorrow. They just made the announcement.
Fantastic.
And we're expecting, we're having conversations for them to also provide HP laptops for advisors. The next step, we want to extend that to also AGLA, but they say they're starting with ASL first. So that's very, very kind of them. It was a wonderful event. They have cookie crumble boxes and plushies. There are very special plushies. What were the squishmallows? For all kids, we have a food truck giving food for free. So many advisors show up and parents, students. It was really, really, really wonderful. They were donating also food and books. Beverly Hills Unified has also offered to fund our classroom libraries. So we are already,
Who?
Beverly Hills Unified, School
Oh,
Unified,
that's
Oh,
really
the
great.
school
the school
district.
School
district,
district?
yes.
Beverly Hills School District.
So we're
That's really
sending,
kind.
yeah. So we are sending already these forms for teachers to start entering book names to replenish the libraries. Also, the Dream Center is
And this is the dreamcenter.org, right? The-
yes. So they are also sending, we sent today a checklist for teachers to enter the data of all the items and materials that they need for their classrooms. And then our ACO is going to enter that on Amazon. And what I'm being told is that Amazon is going to get payoff.
That's incredible.
What else? Sorry, there's so much. And also, they were asking information about all the students' desks, chairs, whiteboards, everything that we need. Just need a space. And I think I'm gonna let Ian speak about that. What else? They're also, Ryan Chris say that this organization, yes, Seagrass, sorry, that they will donate $5,000 to 100 families. I don't know, so to all the families that got affected.
Who's it?
First I said 10, first I said 10, they just told me today, the Matthew from their podcast. Yeah, he just told me. So I think, yes, way too much, I know, but that's what they announced today.
Sorry, who announced that?
Matthew from the podcast of Ryan Seagrass. What else? I'm going to be holding daily staff meetings with my staff next week. Again, things are changing so fast. So we are scheduling meetings with our staff to stay engaged as things change. And the idea is for our advisors to be connecting with their families daily and start meeting students, so already making plans. Tomorrow, we're going to make a more solid plan on how those gatherings would look like, whether it is going to a public library, museum, a park to do read alouds. But we do want the community to stay connected as much as possible. As you know, some of our advisors also have been affected. So we have advisors that are out of town at the moment.
That was gonna be my question is, I don't know if whoever wants to answer it, if we know staffing levels, folks that are out of town, folks that are here.
So far, I have one teacher that is coming back on Tuesday. And then there's a second one that should be back also on Tuesday. I'm gonna check back again with her tomorrow, because on top of that.
And, who has the numbers on how many students were impacted? I know that we were figuring out how many have lost
I'm gonna
home.
do.
You
Yeah,
do that?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see if I missed anything. If you guys have any questions for me,
Questions for Danielle?
I guess I go back to my, you can see the line. It keeps going.
I need my glasses. I
I
can't.
like,
Get these
I
very secret information.
my secret, there's no secret, it was all to report, but I don't wanna take all the time.
Where's all this stuff going?
Hmm?
Where are we
Where are
sending
we
it
storing
to?
it?
Where are we storing it?
So I just found out, I am just arranging with IT because we're gonna have to set up these computers, we're gonna need volunteers.
location.
So tonight I'm gonna be working on that, where that's gonna go.
Okay.
Yeah, I call Sierra Madre again. I have a garage, but I just moved.
I just saw that the storage companies were offering I don't know how secure that is for this level of whatever, but I saw storage places were offering
Yeah,
for folks.
Is there, this is maybe a broader question for everyone later, but I'm thinking of like, we're getting so many offers, and I wonder like, what is it that we say no to? Or like, what is it that we share with people, our needs? Like, these are articulate our needs and then have them fulfill them as opposed to like negotiating with them, you know? Anyway, I think that's a broader question, but.
and another thing that we're discussing today with our director is that to me, that is really important. This is also a very good opportunity to build bridges. So I want to make sure that we also have a system to show our gratitude to every organization that been generous to us. And that's important. And keep these good relationships. The CSRs was fantastic. They were really nice. I met with the superintendent, good friend of mine, and they, they're very open to support us. So I would like to send some appreciation. I'm getting people like Pepperdine from the school that I opened in South Central LA. The students made cards for us. Yeah, it's very sweet. I have the pictures. So sweet. I don't know, schools in Santa Clarita, everybody wants to show love to our students in one way or another. Yeah, so it's nice to build those bridges and keep them.
Thank you, Danielle. Aaron?
So we initially had a 2-week transitional plan. We had hoped that we would be able to move into the Wilson site. And our initial concept was this week we were gonna prepare our staff for virtual and hybrid learning, and have one touch point with our students and an advisory this week, which we did. And then next week, while our students were doing virtual, our parent volunteers would be working with us to set up Wilson as a learning space that we could then come in person the next week. Unfortunately, Pasadena Unified School District has not made Wilson available to us. So we are going to continue with virtual as a space where students can be in community, where they can still learn until we identify a physical in-person space. And we can transition into moving into that space while students still have the opportunity to get some learning opportunities. So similar to Daniela last week, our advisors reached out to all their advisees to check on everyone's status. And we recorded all that information, and then we collaborated with the ACO as well around how to connect people with different opportunities. We've also been in contact with donors around getting furniture, desks, chairs, et cetera, for the physical space once we get it. And we have like a consortium of schools, I believe they're Christian schools. Whittier Christian's principal was the one who kind of led this effort, who in their warehouse, they have 900 different desks that they are going to donate to us whenever we're ready to take them. In the meantime, they will store them in their warehouse indefinitely. So this week with staff, we had a gathering on Monday and we did relational circles with our staff to just see where they were at, see what they needed, see what they could commit to going forward, and also to prepare them to lead a circle with their advisees this week. So we kind of modeled that for them. Tuesday, our staff worked on setting up our virtual classrooms. I don't know if y'all remember Bitmojis. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So I showed the staff how to create a Bitmoji classroom and they had fun designing those. And we created a virtual learning page, which is like our virtual school now that includes each staff member's links to their own virtual classrooms, and a copy of the schedule, as well as what the regular schedule would be. So the schedule that we're going with for virtual is morning heavy engagement and interaction. And then in the afternoon, some asynchronous time, we're going to do a flipped classroom model where the afternoon students are reading, researching, with the idea that when they're live in person, it should all be highly collaborative, highly engaging. And then today, our wonderful counseling staff did a training for our advisors on how to run a circle one, but also how to support students through this type of crises, including strategies for right now, but strategies to think about 2 months from now when some of the other stress from this is going to manifest and everybody's going to be a little more worn down, the adrenaline's going to wear off. And you might still need to remember that a child might be expressing this because of what they've been through, not because they're being a jerk. And then they met with their advisees at 11 o'clock today. I popped into all the different virtual advisories. I would say we had around 75% virtual attendance in each of the advisories, which I thought was pretty successful. And it speaks to the relationships that our students have with their advisees and how they want to engage. But I did ask the advisors not to take attendance per se, but to note who was there and who wasn't, so that we have an outreach team that's following up with all the kids who didn't show up to see, what they may need, like what might be the barrier there, and try to, provide some support. I do think we have some kids that don't have their laptops with them. So we're trying to get, those kids' laptops as well. Once we get some additional, I think we might need about 20. We're going to do deliveries to those students. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be doing a training on the flipped classroom and using Skies. It's a platform we use that differentiates student work, using Skies as a way to help with facilitating a flipped classroom model. We're also going to do a session where we're planning service learning. We're flipping our Fridays so that our Fridays are going to be the designated time in the afternoon where students come together in person. But it's going to be under a service learning model. So the idea is that each advisor is going to work with their advisees on a service learning project. And we hope to connect with some of the different organizations that are doing work in the community to help with that. I've talked to Kyle from Arts Bridging the Gap, who also wants to commit artists to supporting with that work. And then we're going to do a staff virtual game. I think we might play Among Us or something like that. I don't know. But we're going to try to have some fun as well. And then next week, starting Tuesday, we'll launch virtual school for as long as we need to run it until we can identify a building. But I'm excited that we have a lot of parents who want to help us move into a space, and that virtual school will help our students stay engaged while that is happening. As far as grading, things such as that, I want teachers to provide feedback, not grades for now. Like, if we unfortunately have to extend virtual learning at some point, I would want to actually issue grades, because it starts to devolve in engagement and quality if you don't. But I would say if this is a 2-week thing, we're offering feedback, not grades. If it starts to extend beyond that, we might have a discussion about shifting. But I'm just really proud of our staff and how they've really come together. They're all there in the meetings, even though a number of them have been displaced. And I know it was a lot for them last week to call families and ask what their situations were. But I think we really have the talent and the heart for the work in our community to shepherd people through this. So that part, at least, is exciting and energizing during this very difficult time.
Is there any consideration, I'm sorry, my daughter has been dealing with really intense anxiety.
Mhm.
She's asked me to find out just how realistic it is for her just to remain virtual, because she does not, well, we're probably going to be moving out of state for a little while, but even before that, she wants to remain virtual, and I don't know if that's an option that's being considered for some.
It absolutely is, because I have kids who are all over the place.
Yeah.
And part of the reason to be virtual, frankly, is to allow those people to still access school. So I think, I don't know, this is something we still have to figure out and work out, but I want to keep people who are eventually going to come back at some point, engage with the community, engage with the learning. So I think we'll have a hybrid option even as we move into fully in person.
Thank you.
Has anybody reached out, from those organizations that specialize in trauma after large disasters like this? Or in terms of like training our staff and faculty, and then also offering support for the secondary trauma that everybody's experiencing from all the.
Nobody's reached out, and I've leaned, so we have our counselors at our school, but then we also have certified family therapists who work with us. So when I was in the meeting, working on planning with the counselors, there's 10 or 12 counselors across both campuses, and they're good. So I was kind of defaulting to the expertise that we have, but if we think there's a need to, reach out for additional help.
And there are some additional ones. I mean,
I was gonna ask if the new counselor, you were gonna get a new counselor in
Jonathan,
January.
yes, he's
Has-
great. He came one day.
Okay, so that was my question is, are they here?
Yes.
He was helping
Yes.
plan the session.
Great.
He, in fact,
we
is
have a new
younger and
ASL
technologically way more capable than everyone else. So he designed the slideshow. He was invaluable, actually.
He's mine, don't steal it.
So-
Just got him.
He's helping the talk, the overall talk.
Okay, great.
The counselors that we have are trainees, right? Across
Some,
both campuses?
some are trainees,
And
some
some
are
are.
counselors.
Have we been able to reach out to every student at both campuses? They can connect with every family?
Yes.
Yes, today we just got into contact with one young man that we hadn't been able to get in contact with before. So, yeah.
I cannot tell you how much that means, and you've heard me say it 1,000 times, right? Our schools are small enough for us to know how every single student is doing. And even though, I could have just told you how my kids were doing, but to have Miss Morgan call and talk to my kid, to have their teachers reach out has been really impactful and really appreciated.
Yeah, I'm thankful that our school already had care as a central ethic and
Yeah.
advisory baked in that helped prepare us for a situation like this.
Anything else, Aaron?
The Friday, these are in-person sessions.
Yeah, my hope is so in the morning, they'll have a meeting with their advisor virtually
Okay.
to kind of plan. That way, even kids who aren't able to come in person could still be a part of it. And then anyone who's able to come in person in the afternoon, go to a site to do work. That's my hope for it. And I would hope that it would start next Friday.
Do you guys have a sense of what sites yet?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about
Okay.
tomorrow
Okay.
in our session. Yeah.
And of course, you're gonna make sure it's safe and not hazardous, where.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I saw
that's
some pictures
it's
of
actually a
kids
serious concern.
putting out, and I was like, no, that's all toxic, hazardous, smoking
Yeah,
ash, so.
nobody's going to be going into no-go zones. There'll
This,
be no HLA reconnaissance mission.
No.
this might be a question more for you, Ian, but do we have any idea of how the state is treating ADA?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, some good news about that.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Fine.
Maybe
Really
that's
good.
maybe that's a good segue to the
It's like a
executive
full
director's
conversation.
report.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk in some broad categories, and these are the categories that I'm gonna talk about at every board meeting. And it's categories I'm gonna update the board with, it's categories we talk with and about as an admin team. So the first one is communications, just to give you kind of a rough update of where we are with communications since we last spoke. We're continuing to use all the resources that we have to communicate, Parent Square, text messages, all of those pieces, to talk about resources, general information. I will say our ACO has stepped into this just huge gap around giving and supporting our schools. It's been beautiful to watch. It's really, well, ACOs have, it's a model for what PTA should be, and really impressive. Our employees and families, anyway, we're good on that piece, sorry. There are a number of news agencies, and I'm not going to list them all. I'm just going to tell you some that we've been in communication with and we've done interviews with, and I'm talking to staff members, everything from IAs to parents to myself to directors have been meeting with folks. So I'll just list some. NPR, the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, Epoch Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, CBS, ABC News. Did I say Good Morning America? That was the latest one. Good Morning America reached out and they want to do a whole thing for our school. I've got an interview scheduled with the other executive director for Rosebud Academy for next Tuesday. And I had invited her because this group had reached out, and I just thought, Sean and I are in constant communication. So that's going to be on Tuesday. That's our plan anyway. Executive orders and what the governor has talked about. He's done some executive orders, issued an executive order that provides additional flexibilities and supports for charters, and especially those impacted by the fires. How that looks for us is that we're going to be held harmless. We don't know exactly how long that's going to be for ADA held harmless, but we do know that right now, if our ADA drops, so that is.
That's good.
We have 15 employees lose their homes, or their homes were seriously damaged if they're no longer there. And we have, so that's kind of the employee status check. Now, there are some employees, we've kind of started to identify them by tiers who are going to need a lot more support. And that's been an ongoing thing that our site directors have really narrowed in on, including our independent studies director, and how we're going to support some folks particularly impacted. It's been hard on a number of our staff, and you can see it, and it's very real. But everybody's showing up in just beautiful ways for them, and it's just what a great community. Student family checks. Now, this is one thing that I think, pretty impactful. We had 67 students impacted directly with losing their homes. So across both schools, although 67, not 60%.
67.
67, sorry.
But still more than 10% more than.
Yeah.
Maybe 15.
Yeah, well, yeah. There are some, I don't know, I heard some conflicting reports. I haven't had the moment to sit with Jen or even our folks. I think there was some talk about 80-something families, but I don't know that. I know that for those 67, they lost their homes, and that could be like half their home burned down. It could be part of their home, their entire home. Those are the numbers that we have. In terms of school safety, neither of the campuses are safe, and neither is the adjacent annex spaces over at AGLA. And I say that just as somebody who's walking those spaces and looking at that, and they're not going to be safe for a long time. In particular, the AGLA space, looks and appears to be, pretty good shape. The exterior buildings are down and burned. The chicken coop and the maintenance facility and then the exterior fence. I haven't been able to get on the roof to see what that's like.
Do not go on the roof.
Well, it's just,
Second,
Yeah,
no,
we don't have liability.
Haven't
Haven't
been
been able to get on the roof yet.
no, but just to see, because, you want to make sure that there aren't any holes or whatever. I'd be very careful.
No.
Anyway,
No.
somebody,
There's people who
somebody
pay to
will
do
do
that.
it. Somebody will do
There's
that.
professionals that will do all that.
But you can't do it because there's no power. So don't worry, I'm not going to do it. Say I won't do it. I think the biggest thing is that you've got some really significant smoke damage. At AGLA, all of the homes around it are gone. In an odd way, I think the building really buffered the fire and stopped. If you look at where that building was, it stopped the fire from spreading southwest. And so homes down from that, and even businesses, including unincorporated coffee, they're all there. So,
Wow.
it's really.
Well, it's
quite
a brick.
amazing. It is a big brick,
Yeah.
right? It's a big square building. It provided some some space there for that. So it's going to be massive cleanup. I spoke with our insurance company. I've done all that, and we put in all of our forms and everything that we need to do with the state and with FEMA from the state, because you have to do some things through LACO. So that's all. There was a deadline today. We did that. That's all done. We'll hear back as our adjuster works with us around, just the impact. He feels awful. He knows people in the community, his own friends. So it's not, Charter Safe is a real. They've been really good. They've been good to us.
that adjuster is coming from Charter State.
Yeah, I think they partner. Actually, they have. He might be actually coming from a second party. Charter Safe employs when there's disasters and things.
Is it worthwhile to look into getting a private adjuster?
Well, yeah, I think it's a third party. It's not whatever Charter Safe is. They don't. You mean just in terms of like getting a different
Yeah,
perspective?
The adjusters are usually coming from the insurance company,
Mhm.
and so a private adjuster might be able to get you more money,
Mhm.
even though your current adjuster will say, do not get a private adjuster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
I think,
I'm trying to share that with people who went through this.
yeah. Well, let's, and, I would take, some direction from the board on that, and even if just, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, if they're giving you 100% of whatever the thing is,
That's
then it's fine.
The first question is, what are the policy limits? Are we actually
Getting
going all the way to getting everything? Here's your buckets, and my question is gonna be, how much percentage of that bucket are we getting?
Right.
I'm kind of dealing with that with my
Then
home,
we're good.
so I kind of know although my wife's doing a lot more of that than me, she's actually most of it. We have applied for a FEMA funding source. That's something that we already did. SBA Disaster Assistance Loan. We applied, actually, I think we have to approve that tonight. So if that gets approved, that's a $2 million loan that helps, and it's actually to 0%. So that'll help fiscally, things that we need to do if we need to draw on that. We want cash is king. So if we have extra cash on hand that we can draw from, that's great. We will not be drawing down on any line of credit from any bank or anything else. We will not need to do that.
Because of
Because of
sources coming
everything,
in.
the sources coming in, we're not going to need to do any of those things. I talked about, I didn't talk about this. There's an SB 740 extension that the governor also proposed and I think is happening. So what that means is, should we have to go to a separate space, we can still apply for SB 740 funding, offset rental costs for private facilities. So for folks who don't know, we have our Prop 39, which is a district facility, and we get that from the district. It's not rented. We get that space, and then we give the district some resources back because they have oversight of it. So there's a little bit of administrative costs on those. SB 740 is a separate pod. If you want to have a private site, you apply for SB 740. If you get accepted, you usually have to do this a year in advance, okay? And then you get reimbursed. So you pay up front, and then you get reimbursed from the state up to 75% of the total cost. So that's a good thing for the situation that we're in, as we're looking at private sites as well as district sites. In terms of transportation, our 2 buses, I believe, were affected. One is completely totaled. I mean, it's pretty gruesome. The small bus, we don't know the damage on that one yet, but it was right next to the big bus burning, and you got to be careful at some of those things. The small van, I think that one's a total loss. The white one, it's kind of an odd van. It was really a total loss before, but
Don't say that.
maybe hypothetically, we don't know. I mean, it was just it's a sad thing. And the
Well-functioning van.
yes, my bad on that. The purple van is gone. That one's a shell. And then the brown van has a little bit of damage on it. And then the orange van is smoky, but it's operational. So I don't know if that means that it's total loss, because I don't hard to drive around in that because you smell all the smoke, but we'll see. Food services, we did get word from the district last week that they are doing grab-and-go meals for any of our families. So that was a nice gesture from the district. Our food services is primed, ready to go. All we need is a facility from which to get food up and running, and we can provide food for us and we can provide food for Odyssey. They're already procuring food and getting that on the ready. And there are going to be some supports for that in addition. So federal assistance on those dollars too. That'll come as we find space. Employees, we've kind of talked about employees. Student families, we've talked about them. Employment items, we have not had all employees right now, and I just want to make this clear, all employees for us, part-time, full-time, teachers, support staff, everybody's getting paid. So nobody's lost a paycheck. We are paying our employees, and we will continue to pay our employees. That is just so everybody knows. I want that to be the case, because I did see some chatter that people said, well, I've lost my job, and that's not true. What has happened is that we have lost a space where you did your job, but you are still doing your job, and we're paying people for their work.
Do you know how long that'll be through?
That's going to continue
Through the end of the school year?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I talked about enrollment and attendance. The big question I think that folks have, and I have some news but not news. So I'll just tell you, we have heard back from the district about different potential openings of different sites. That they're saying that there's a phase right now where sites are going to be open as early as next week. That does not apply, I want to be very clear, it does not apply for our elementary students. I've asked to have a seat at the table. The other charter school teacher or leaders have asked for a seat at the table for district staff, and I was told, well, we'll check on that and see if that's appropriate. We've written a letter from CCSA. We have a letter drafted with our attorneys that we're going to be sending them as well, that we want to collaborate with them. We've been asking them to collaborate for the past week and a half, and we demand to have space so that we can share our thoughts about strategizing what would be best so that the 3 charter schools who are impacted significantly in our neighborhoods are given the due right of being a part of the solution. So that is where we are, but I have not heard anything back from them on the ASL students. AGLA is a different animal, and they have said that they believe things could open up for us as early as next Thursday.
Would that be on the space we had access to before the fire at Wilson?
That would be on that space.
Would it be the same footprint, or would they give us space to any
Same
extra?
footprint, same footprint.
Final comments.
Just as an apropos update, my wife is actually at the PUSD meeting right now, and they just said 2 things on that. One is they at least told the meeting there that they are committed to finding a space for all of the charter schools in PUSD. They're at least saying that out loud. And the other is no PUSD school will go back before next Thursday. So all of those students are also at home.
Yeah. I can tell you specifically in terms of, I mean, there are a lot of impacts to everybody.
No student, not even the Olympic schools, was
Right.
not impacted?
I don't know. I'll have to clarify that.
No, it is accurate. I spoke with their CDO
Yeah.
just before this meeting, so that is the latest information that I have too.
They said very similar on their media briefing that I don't know, was it yesterday,
It's today.
today?
Yeah.
They did say what your wife just reported, that they committed to working with us, and they're our authorizer, so I want to be respectful. I will just say I find it concerning that when they have been talking about our schools, that they keep using the old campus names.
Yes.
The
Because-
slides that she sent me a picture is the old one.
Because I would say 95% of our community does not know that our campus was once Noyes, Noyes Elementary.
Yeah.
So I know that our entire community was watching the news last Wednesday, trying to find out what happened. And unless you randomly, like me, I'm on the board and I know people that grew up here and went to Noyes, 40 years ago. Hearing Noyes burned down doesn't mean anything. And that is a very intentional choice to use the old
Yeah.
campus names. And I find it very hurtful to all of our community that for whatever reason, PUSD's board and representatives are not using our names, the names of our school community, when talking about our community that has been so deeply impacted. The other thing that has deeply concerned me is hearing them use language referring to PUSD non-chartered public schools, because we are chartered public schools authorized by PUSD, and referring to those students as their children, because every child is all our child. We as a community, as a broader community, are responsible for all of these kids. PUSD as our authorizer owes a duty of care to our students just as much as to students enrolled in their district campuses. So I hope that they do the right thing. I am hopeful that they've started making statements today, that they will make sure all of our students and communities have a space, but it has been concerning.
May I follow up with that? The journalist who wrote about Aveson for the Wall Street Journal, when I first talked with her, my main point was what you just said. And she was encouraged to go the more human route with the first article, but she is going to do a follow-up where we're going to go into the politics of charter schools in Pasadena. So I'm going to keep pushing her on that. I've been talking with her every day, and I think that there's an opportunity to make this more public and to hold the PUSD accountable, because they are very intentionally using the names of the locations rather than the names of the schools. And it is harmful.
Would it help if I was actually, when I was reading the article, I was gonna send the reporter an email.
Mhm.
Would that be helpful or harmful?
Hold off on that, because I can put her in touch with everybody here,
Okay.
and then if necessary, we can follow up that way. She delivered, by the way, I have some copies of the newspaper with the school.
Okay.
Please hold on to that.
I think it's within our, we should send a notice to PUSD saying, use our names and the names of the charter schools.
Yes.
In future briefings.
Yes.
I think we should write that.
Yeah,
We should
yes.
have that in writing and communicate that to them.
That would be done.
Yes.
I mean, they have it's like an ethical and moral duty.
That'd be on our lawyer's letterhead.
Beyond, yeah, it should be on the
Yes.
lawyer's letterhead, but beyond like the legality of any of it.
But it
The,
is-
the fact is also that we share students, like many of our families have a student in a charter and in the Pasadena Unified Non-Charter School. Like, there's no real distinction. We're all trying to take care of these kids.
heavy stuff. Okay, that's my report. That's like the general, gone through.
Quick question
Yes.
about the lease at AGLA.
Yeah.
Is that, I know we probably will go into a new lease in a new space. Is
Yeah.
that something that we're working out of or?
Or the lawyer's working on that, or the insurers?
Okay, so is your question around, will we have a new legal agreement with the
Will
lease?
that lease that we currently have for the AGLA campus, is that still binding? For how long? Are we still paying rent?
Is that
Um,
TBD?
Yeah, yes, there are a number of things. I'm meeting with some attorneys who are analyzing all of that to determine next steps. I wouldn't be able to give a legal response to that, but we are looking at all of those pieces. If we're not able to be on campus, that does impact our ability to pay. So,
And why can't all of our students be at Wilson?
Pasadena Unified has not authorized that.
What's our current footprint there? Like, how many rooms do we have there?
we have
5.
5 or 6. Yeah, is it 6?
5.
It's 5.
And theater, the theater's now.
Theater's massive, and we do have that as well. It's an 800 seat theater, a really big space.
So we could do community gatherings, like we did last night with there.
I'm gonna give you I'll give you the.
Or they don't
longer-
let us use it at night, is that correct?
Since August, I've been in contact with our attorneys and with PUSD, and I've put it out there very nicely. I want to collaborate with you. We need a key for after hours past 4:30 because an auditorium, performing space is no good at 2 p.m. Families, work, and then you get off work and you want to come see your kid in a play, right? At 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it is. Their response has been, that is outside of the agreement, and that is not part of our obligation, even though legally it clearly is. Like, the law is not just a little bit on our
Are
side.
you talking
It's
about Prop
completely-
39?
A Prop 39 space, like, you can't
I think
do
that's
that.
another thing we ask for in writing, and say, we need the space, and force them to ignore us and say no.
Yeah, and I just got off the phone with our attorney who's already crafted that. That's ready to go. That's been ongoing. We haven't even had the access to our auditorium, our gym space after 4 o'clock. And so what they've prioritized is outside groups to come in and use those spaces. And they've said that, well, that's just part of the process and you have to pay the rate that you would pay as any entity outside. And my argument is no school operates till 4:30 that is doing anything good for kids. So, and plus it's just illegal, but just on an ethical level, we need access to that space. And they have dragged their feet month after month after month. And I'm beyond frustrated about it. So anger is probably a closer feeling.
Outside of Wilson, is there another PUSD candidate where we may be able to move somewhat soon?
I asked the district that very question, and they said, well, we have our students at Elliott who are displaced, and so we have to figure out where we're going to put them. Also, there are students at Altadena
Arts.
That campus, by the way, is not burned down, but it
It
did
will
experience.
need work, yeah.
It did experience what AGLA did, okay? So the buildings around it, I drove right by it. I saw all that when it was burning. That you can, there's stuff there. So those two groups of students, they have to find spaces for. They have a lot of empty schools. Colin, I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. I wish I,
They, I know this just from the last few months. They focus on what they call asset management, and they consider those properties assets that they want to try to capitalize on. And so providing them to us doesn't provide them capital. And so that's one of the reasons they see them as something that they need to lease out, rent out to other organizations. So,
But I guess the question is,
Yeah.
they're not currently telling you
not
this
even,
empty school,
Not
we're
at all.
not set this. Okay.
and we have to keep in mind that they might be dumb enough, sorry, maybe I shouldn't say that. They might make the decision to rebuild Elliott, despite the fact that it has very few students and has a capacity for 1,000, rather than actually investing in consolidating what they need to consolidate to improve the PUSD system. And if they continue to waste their money in that way, that could make it actually more difficult for them to pay attention to the needs of the charter schools.
Right, they are rebuilding Elliott. It's in the board agenda today, and it's one of the items.
And it's absurd.
It's this the whole thing just on rebuilding Elliott.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
absolutely
And I
absurd.
think that we had to relocate all these students, right? Because there's a few of their schools that got damaged over there. And they have also one campus that was gonna be closed next year, because they're gonna be Longfellow. So, but if they're gonna be relocating their own students, I really wonder, and if they have to work with us, I really wonder, because as a principal, I had a shared campus with public
Yeah,
schools.
co-location.
It is very challenging.
Yeah.
And they play that game through the, always, constantly. It's a power struggle. So I just wonder how can we can negotiate this somehow with so many pieces moving, if they're gonna be relocating their own students, right? Where they can move things around to give us our own space. I
They
don't
do
know.
have a lot of property.
Yeah.
Did not occur to me until you just said that they're doing a proclamation that they're rebuilding Elliott, that, and it didn't, it should have, I don't know why it didn't.
I wonder why.
Yeah, no, it should have occurred to me before. I did look at their agenda, and I just didn't connect dots. Why aren't they doing that for every campus that burned down? So I just have a question, a curiosity around that. And then I wonder if people could ask that question. All right, I'll leave it right there. Okay, that's my answer here.
Well, let's make sure our next board meeting is not on the same night as their board meeting.
Yes. Well, I think this was a
Theirs
special.
is on the
This was a
30th,
special.
I think so.
Oh, this is, I was gonna say, I thought we didn't overlap.
A dumb question on that topic. Do we, Aveson, own the land and the building for ASL?
No.
We lease it from the school district.
It's
Kind
not
of.
really a lease. They are required by law to let us use it. That's the best way to think about it. And then we pay them a resource for oversight. But it's not rent. I want to make that very clear. It's not rent.
It's like
What
fees.
is the insurance for?
Our insurance, we are insured for any relocation that we might need to do. We are insured for any rent as a result of that relocation. We are insured for fire in particular. We are very well insured, just gonna tell you in a good way. We are insured for all of the property inside all the classrooms that we procure. We're insured for all of our vehicles.
Do we have
Buildings
loss of
themselves.
use, like expenses beyond our usual expenses?
Yes, loss of use as well. I can give you a more comprehensive.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean like that. I just
Yeah.
meant like the buildings themselves. Those are,
Those are not
Theirs.
ours. Oh, with the exception of the things that we have built,
The yurts.
the yurts.
The chicken coop,
Yeah.
the playground.
We
So
got the ball.
so in other words, they could choose not to rebuild that campus. If that's what you're trying to figure out.
that is what I asked.
And I think that is a thing that has kept me up amongst other things, but I just don't,
They own that property.
they do.
Just sell it.
Does
Yeah.
Prop 39 give charter schools precedence ahead of private schools or no?
No.
Because I know they have private schools renting the other school on Allen.
Yeah, and for them, that, fiscally, they would say, well, that makes more sense for us.
So they don't have to put us ahead of them. They can.
They
do
are
it.
legally obligated to provide space for us under Prop 39. They have to find space for us.
If there isn't space because a private school is leasing out one of the spaces.
Then they would have to move that private school. You can't get out of it. Like, our charter is good. So for 5 years, they can't tell us that we can't exist. They have to provide space for us to leave.
Sorry, this is another dumb question. And I don't mean this, I mean this in the most basic way possible. Why are we looking for space if the district is supposed to find it for us. And I don't mean that in a dumb way, just, or do we have to take a space if they find it for us, or are we allowed to opt out of that and say, no, thank you, we found something we prefer?
The district is obligated to give us a space, what that space is, how that works for our school community.
How long it takes.
How long it takes.
We're not being responsible.
And, this could drag on for some time, so that's one of the things that we're considering. It's not a dumb question, it's actually right at the heart of it. They could decide to co-locate us at, another campus.
And if they do that, we have the ability to opt out using school funding, insurance money, to say we prefer some other space we found for ourselves in the meantime.
Yeah, we would use SB 740 for that, which gives us back
Yeah.
75%.
Okay.
What is the difference in price, like what we would pay for rent for like a building in Colorado versus what we would give the district for using one of their buildings?
I wouldn't be able to give you a very specific dollar figure, but it is times larger. It's
The rent is a lot more.
Yeah, it's a lot larger. But if you're thinking, in the short term, maybe by short term, I mean months, right?
Like this school year.
This school year till July, 6 months, right? That's doable. And maybe that 6 months we turn around and we say, okay, well, this space makes sense for us for a year, because now the dust is settled and we kind of know exactly where we want to be and how the things are going to play out in the district. So I think there are a lot of benefits to that. I think that would be a question I would have for the board too, to think about.
I mean, I think another reason is PUSD is not moving with, I don't know.
Integrity.
No, like speed, they're not moving with urgency.
No,
They're not moving with urgency to get our kids back in person, but our community has an urgency. They don't have to do it within a particular timeline, do they?
Well, our attorney is actually crafting a letter to that very,
Don't say what you put in the letter.
yeah, I won't, but crafting a letter. about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's why we need an attorney on the board. Tell your friends, please. You have no more attorneys.
Maybe I'm just being naive, it seems like the law would be meaningless if they could say, we'll get you a space, just wait.
That is what they're saying.
Can I speak with the attorney?
Mhm.
Can you put us in touch
Mhm.
after this?
Yeah.
Can I high five you?
Yes, watching that briefing today communicated to me that it will be many weeks before even their kids are back. So we are on the other end of
Yeah.
that, so it could be a couple months, and I think our community cannot absorb that.
I can't wait.
Is there a consequence to the district if they fail to put our kids somewhere? Or is their answer they could just do Zoom school forever?
I think they probably figured that out, the answer to that question. I don't have the answer to that question about consequences. That's an attorney question that I would not answer. I think there are moral consequences. I think there are ethical consequences. I actually think there are political consequences. All of those are massive, and I don't think they're thinking that through.
I don't think so.
Those seem like good issues for the reporters.
Yeah.
For sure. And then you did get in touch without disclosing the content of your communication with the attorneys for real estate.
I did, and I will say, I apologize to the board. I meant to connect with them this week. I have a meeting with them, a standing meeting for next week. And I will not miss that meeting. I've been a little busy, but I meant to be at that meeting. I believe on one of the campuses. I couldn't, anyway, yes.
Great.
Great.
Just to answer the question.
So, this is a tricky question. Do you have a sense yet of like families are like in person, please, in person? Like, is there a ballpark guess around that?
I think that is overwhelming. I think the vast majority of our parents, of our students, of our community want to be in person, and that is our singular focus. That's my singular focus. I stand before you tonight a little bit lighter. I won't be able to share any of that publicly, but I do think there's good news very soon, very soon.
Any other questions for Ian?
I think there's a story to tell about the community and the ACO that hasn't been told. And I think with all of this, there's a lot for us to like mirror out, right? You know, so just putting that out there of, you know, directing folks to tell like how the community has really stepped up in such beautiful and powerful ways.
I do have one other question. How long are we held harmless?
It's at least through the end of this year. It might be 3 years. It could be 5 years.
So we get to tag the ADA back to the end of a year that ended in June 2024?
No, I think it would
It'd be
be
period
fall,
1 or 2.
P1, fall, which, you know, those are not super high numbers, but it means we're not going lower than that.
Okay.
Which will buy us time because whether Aveson families or not, all of the families displaced, some number will move out of the area, some number will stay, and then it'll give us time to draw and recruit new people into this amazing community at our new location, and it'll give us time to get on our feet again. Is this a good time? Anything else before?
Nope.
Then I am going to ask Jen Wang, Woman of the Hour, representing Organization of the Week and a Half for Our Long Span, to share with us. But why don't you sit? Because I got you on your feet a lot.
Hi, everybody. The ACO has been busy. Last Sunday, my wife said to me, remember a week ago when we were pouring the concrete path at Aveson? And then we laughed until we cried. A number of you were at the community meeting yesterday, and so I apologize because you're going to hear a lot of the same things again. But the day we found out that ASL had burned down, and that HELA was likely unusable, Aaron and Debella and I spoke about starting a relief fund. So we threw together a donor box page and a website, and then we started GoFundMe accounts started pouring in, and I thought we will probably need some kind of mutual aid, and we had this amazing model called Families Helping Families that Erin Hearn-Williams had started during COVID. And she got together with us right away and showed us exactly what she used to do. And we adapted a version of that and wrote forms for people to request aid, forms for people to volunteer and sign up. And every day since has been us trying to adjust and grow and organize our volunteers to meet the needs that we see emerging. The situation has changed every single day. And so we're doing our best and just hoping to help everybody that we can. One of the first things we realized is that we needed really good communication, more than can be done with just us. And so I think it's 12 parents now who've stepped forward as what we're calling family liaisons. They take an assigned group of families who have been impacted, and it's their job to call them, check in on them, and try their best to identify their needs. The biggest challenge with being a family liaison is that sometimes it's hard to ask for help. And sometimes when you're overwhelmed, it's difficult to even identify what help you need aside from everything. If it's okay, I'd like to just tell you their names. They're Emily Kalmeyer, Sochi Irina, Stephanie Wordmuller, Uli and Marina Burst, Davina Wolf, Hee-John Kim, Kyung Soo Moon, Lisa Detweiler, and there are 4 more who joined today, Bethany, Gwen Mark Matheson, Brianna, whose son started at ASL on Monday.
Oh my God.
Monday, yeah. On that
Because we were so
Monday,
big
he was just there that one day, and I met her again last night. She told me she was so excited to finally be here. She'd been waitlisted for 2 years. I was so delighted that Elliot got to start on Monday, but then she came to the community meeting and said, I am so glad that we are here. We are in the right place. And I still believe that this is the right place for him. And I cried because that's what you do. And people believe, and they're here because they believe. And there's one more parent. I'm so sorry, I've forgotten their name. Meryl Upsall, one of our amazing board members, is coordinating housing. I messed that up last night, but she's the one working on getting folks into stable housing. We have folks, Valerie Strusky, who's been working to give people emergency supplies, particularly air filters, air purifiers. And Mandy Moss Holmes, who's also on our board, and Stephanie Wordmuller again, are working on building wish lists for what people will need, both short-term as emergency supplies and long-term someday when they're able to refurnish a home. Becca Coyle and Samantha Silver Katzberg have been coordinating supply drives. They had their first one a week after the fire. They're still going. She has a lot of stuff. Please see her if you need it. Working to get food and meal delivery to families who need it is Daniel Wolf. I'm actually had to make sure he was okay because he's just been like sending people Uber Eats gift cards on his own dime.
Oh my God.
Oh, do you need food? All right, gift card. And people, like a family contact me, they're like, I just got this huge gift card. I don't know who it's from. Do you know who Daniel is? I'm like, yes, I do. There's the newly founded Aveson Transport Committee, which is coordinated by Michelle Hastings, who's also, I believe, been working on sourcing furniture for AGLA. And they are a fleet of truck drivers. Yanko Javier, Mike Plum, Diane Blodorn Kim, and Steve Stern. There's a huge amount of data entry and data sanitizing and data intake. And so the team working on that is myself and Erin Hearn-Williams and Sean Ricketts, our treasurer. Sean is also in charge of the logistics of our disbursement fund, and so he and I have been working with our payment processors and the bank. Dispersing our relief fund is a logistical challenge. So you may see a message from us soon being like, you are going to get Zelle from a stranger on the board. Because our bank told us that they support Zelle and they lied. Which is unfortunate. There's this fire hose of information, community events, and resources. And my wife, Siobhan Dugal, Jeremy Marinoff, and Amy Jaker-Jones are compiling that. We have 2 social media mavens, Instagram rock stars, who are driving donations to our page via Instagram and are going to, just signed on yesterday, they're going to be working to get the story of what's happening to us out on Instagram. Lauren Hastings, who brokered a $5,000 donation from Jared Leto yesterday, and Eve Rudnicki. And then in charge of all of this is Erin Hearn-Williams, our mutual aid inspiration and data monster. Meryl, who is incredibly organized and focused and dreams big, and Sean, who is calm and has good humor and makes sense in times that don't make sense. And Mandy Moss Holmes, who has just tremendous energy and enthusiasm. And all of them have worked with so much compassion and clarity and care for the whole community. And we believe so strongly in not leaving anybody behind. Every day is different, like I said. The main big thing today was last night at the community meeting, we met Dawn Bender, who works for the Dream Center. And she's the one who brought those Chromebooks. And I had not heard of the Dream Center, so I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm like, what has happened? What is even still happening?
The name is apropos.
Yes, but she has told us to come up with lists for classroom supplies. Do you need Chromebooks? Do you need school supplies? What do you need? What do your families need? And so we are currently in a phase where we are just naming the most useful and ludicrous things we can think of and just seeing how she responds.
I told the teachers, don't undersell.
Do not undersell. What is
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
cutest furniture you have? Like, yes. You know, she mentioned that one of her children, her friend, lost all their stuffies in the fire, and she said, "I just wish I had a squishmallow to hug." And then at the thing today, well, Dawn said I made one phone call, and boom, like within a day, there's a pallet of squishmallows at my work. And then I saw that child running across the park today with 3 squishmallows in her arms, and I'm just like, what? I don't understand what's happening. So, you know, that's still very much in progress. But we were like, can you get us a block of, you know, extended stay suites for people? And she's like, I'll work on it. And so we could use input. If you could dream big, what would you ask for? Like, let's just bounce ideas off her and see what happens. Yes, Jenna.
And before I forget, several of the kids said that they wish they had taken their yearbooks. And
Yes.
those been burned, and I contacted Jostens, but I didn't hear back.
They spoke to another parent and they said they can't reprint old ones. But what
But
I would
surely
love to
there's a
know-
way to scan
Because you can
existing
We
ones.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
I
and
had a
reprint
call,
them.
I had to put out a call for old yearbooks on Parents Square. I haven't heard back yet.
I'm curious,
But
but
This
there
year we
was-
got a thing that was like you could pay for an insurance on it and they'd reprint it. So
Oh,
I'm like,
interesting.
that one
I've
we
heard
got,
that.
yeah, so I.
If there still exists the digital file, I wonder if they would at least send it to us to print our own.
Yeah.
But yeah, those sentimental things. But, you know, I wish you guys could all see the things I've seen, like some of the first volunteers we got were staff who had lost their homes. A number of our family liaisons are themselves displaced. There's just an incredible will to take care of each other right now, which is incredible. I remember in November, we had, you know, an ACO board meeting where we bought a few pizzas and nobody came. And we were just like, well, everybody take a whole pizza home. But suddenly everybody is here, and that's incredible, even in this really difficult time.
So much pizza.
There was so much pizza. That was half the pizza I bought the first one.
So recruit for the ACO
So-
officers.
Yeah.
I will say I am learning about just the incredible depth of skills and resources that folks have in the community. And for better and for worse, I don't intend to forget that information. So that's interesting.
Are you making a spreadsheet of that?
Probably soon.
Can you send at least me and her once that you're a copy of that list of all the different teams?
Yes. Oh, and I should say, yeah, those are team leaders, but they all have volunteers working with them too.
I would love to see a whole list, not now, not extra work, but eventually, whenever.
Jen, do you want to say that they gave out $250 envelopes?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing the Dream
Yeah.
Center was doing at the park today, by the way, was there was a woman with a fanny pack full of envelopes
Yes.
of $250 cash each.
Yeah.
And she was just like, oh, do you go to Aveson? And I said, yes. And she said, here's your cash monies. And I was like, I didn't lose my home. And she said, well, you know, you've been through something. But I mean, you know, in a more eloquent way than that. And so I said, oh, okay. And I found somebody. But That seems much more effective actually than what the city is doing, which I will say, like,
Yes. Yes.
I think we've all seen that like the public governmental communications and supports are very slow and cumbersome. And like, who knew, like Facebook would be our most reliable source of information.
Yeah.
Like that has literally been
Yeah.
the best source of information, which is ridiculous. But also people like this, direct mutual aid has been much more effective than whatever.
And one of the, I mean, I've never run a large organization before, so one of the strange things that I see now firsthand is the disconnect between what people need and what is available to be given.
Yeah.
When word got out about Becca's first supply drive, folks were dumping bags of clothes in her yard overnight. And she
That
had,
happened at every
she had
donation
and
center.
has like way more than she needs, and her husband was turning away trucks that pulled up unannounced. They have like a normal size yard, and not like a truck storage yard. And, just that disconnect can be hard, because we're like, well, do you have underwear? Do you have socks, things that are needed for families? Do you have diapers? Do you have formula? Shoes. And, that's been interesting to navigate. That's still the community though.
Also, the Dream Center, he stood up and he said he's committed to getting every family who lost their home up to $5,000.
Yeah.
So he handed out $250 to every person who's from Aveson,
I was
whether
like,
he's.
I
And
was
then-
scared to mention it because I was like, is
Yeah,
this
so we leave it
really
right.
happening? Like,
Yeah.
so, I hope it happens. I'm also so, I'm like shocked.
Really won't.
I know. I literally asked her, I was like, do you work in a chocolate factory? What's happening here?
Yes.
I remember
The
this.
force
You don't want to, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know. I learned about them yesterday. I can tell you why.
It's, the Foursquare Church.
Okay. But, I'm really grateful for the support. I learned about them yesterday. I will go try to learn a lot more about them now.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
So it's like, I can say, if I may, piggyback on that, we were running surveys to figure out how many computers we would need. So it was last night that we were talking to them. So, well, we need computers.
Yeah.
For the whole school, and today,
The speed.
today they were committed. So today they were committed, okay, tomorrow you're gonna get the computers you asked for last night.
Yeah.
So once we have it, I'll get excited.
My opinion of the Angelus Temple and Echo Park has completely been changed just now, because they're connected to the Dream Center.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what this temple was. Echo Park.
I mean, the donation things, everything that moved most quickly, they were the churches, because the churches
Yeah.
know how to run a
Yeah.
volunteer effort. Like, the phone trees get activated, like it just, the
Yeah,
churches
they're
have really shown, I mean, way faster than the government, the churches have shown us.
Yeah, and Dawn, our connection there, who's an Aveson parent, kind of procurement for people in need is like her specialty in her job. So just the efficiency and the experience is there.
What Matthew was telling me is that they work in emergency response,
Mm-hmm.
so they're ready to go. So that's how they work, they're always ready to go when there's an emergency.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Going back to the side.
Okay, that brings us to action
We can
items.
go these pretty quick. We can go through them pretty quick.
Yeah.
Some of
So
them
I actually need some motions and seconds and votes and all of that. First,
To approve 5.1, the approved school.
the Grove School or something.
Contract.
Yeah.
Wait, we need a second.
I second.
Go ahead.
Discussion. Just a little explanation. We in the fall, use Grow Schools for some of our marketing efforts and branding efforts, and we are going to need their support now, I think, more than ever. And because we're stretched pretty thin, and they have also committed to giving to our school, even though they're doing this contract. So I think at the end of the day, it might be a wash. Pretty amazing organization. They are committed. They wanted to make sure that we wanted to go forward with them, so they didn't want to pressure us in any way. And I turned back out to them. I said, you know, we need your guidance. And they do a lot of things, not just website development, but making sure that we have robust communications with social media. They can help in all those ways. So I think one of the things that's probably changed since the fire is that we're going to need to loop the ACO into those meetings, because now the ACO is doing kind of the support efforts. So that's going to be something that you probably don't even know yet. I haven't talked to you, but I think it would work pretty well. So I am recommending that this be approved.
Yeah, when I saw that, I admit, I was like, why do we need them? And so I'm curious as to like, how do you see them working for us? You know, like are they, because there's so much storytelling happening already, like a lot of articles, there's a lot of presence, which they would not have been able to do.
Yeah.
You know? So do you see them sort of negotiating, or like, yeah, I'm curious, like what's their role exactly?
Well, one, their role is to get more students enrolled in our campus in the fall than January. So that's like the first goal.
Okay.
And the way they do that is by making sure that our messages are really clear. And so, and streamlined. So we might not want to be saying certain things about the stories that are out there. I don't know this as an example. Or we might not want certain videos or things to be circulated. We might want particular things to promote how we're building back. And so that is where I see them really leaning in, and their goal has shifted, right? It's the same for getting more students enrolled, but now it's also helping manage some of that social media work.
So in a way, it's sort of like a PR person.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Which will help us with our enrollment. Yeah. And if it doesn't help us with our enrollment, then we don't pay any extra.
Any other commentary, questions? Motion on the table is to approve the Grow Schools contract. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Motion to approve 5.2 and 5. Should we do 5.2 and 5.3 together?
No.
No?
They're separate.
Okay. 5.2.
Second.
Ian, I know what this is. It's for the annually required audit, but do you want to give us a sentence or two?
We are audited every year. That audit, I'll talk about in the next item, but that audit just looks through all of our finances, make sure that what we're doing is above board. And this company has been flexible. They've been really responsive, and they know us really well. And so I'm excited to work with them again, because they're really good.
How long have we used them?
We have just finished a
Like 2 years?
2-year, I think, and now it might be a 2 or 3-year contract. And there is a slight increase in that.
Sorry, this goes back to the Grow Schools, but I know we approved it. I just have a question about it. On the contract, it says that they're going to calculate our enrollment as the baseline for the performance on May 15th, 2025. And then they will get paid a success fee based on our enrollment as of October 31st, 2025. Do you know, are those dates going to change in light of the fire, or do they set those because of the fire? Because I'm wondering if May 15th may be our absolute bottom nadir. Yeah. Like, it would be good for us to have more students regardless, but their success fee will be higher than it otherwise would be in normal circumstances this year.
Hmm.
And I don't know if those dates are changing or if this is set.
I don't, I think I can come back to them and ask that question. I don't think that,
Okay.
yeah.
Because they may want to pick a different date.
Yes.
Pre-fire. Pre.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they're picking it after we start using them as the baseline date. And then they give themselves a date for next, like.
I know they do October because they're making sure that you're in school and that those kids haven't left. May shouldn't be, well, it's a good question, actually. And it's a good question.
Right, yeah, I'm just
Yep.
thinking, they might want to do baseline enrollment as of last week, not
Mhm.
2 months from now, 3 months from now, but just,
Yeah.
I want to raise it and we should ask them about it.
Will do.
The motion on the table is the contract for the annual audit. Contract with Wilkinson Hadley King and Company. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Motion to approve 5.3, the 2023-2024 audit report.
Second.
You want me to tell you about it?
Yes,
We had no findings.
that's
That means
always
good.
what we want to hear.
The translation, we're doing everything we need to do with our finances.
Usually I get a call if anything's even like close to a finding. I did not get a call.
Call the vote.
The motion on the table is to approve the audit. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Motion to approve 5.4.
Second.
I know Celeste doesn't look at this for minutes. J-Ron moved, Juan Carlos seconded, and this is the SBA application, which, as a PSA, anybody impacted, apply for FEMA, do your insurance, also apply for the SBA, which isn't just for small businesses in a disaster like this, it's also for homeowners. Check that, because I'm not a professional in this area, but just so. But are there any questions on this? This is just us permitting you to do the application.
Yes. Because it is a loan.
Yeah.
You
At
have to pay it
0%,
back.
but still.
Yeah, 0%. But
Okay, the motion on the table is to approve the application for the SBA loan. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
No, I was talking to myself. Motion to approve 5.5, the permission to apply for emergency relief related funding.
Second.
Questions? Or do you want to give us anything on it?
I mean, it's very straightforward. I'm going to be applying for a lot of emergency funding, and I'd like to not have to bring everything in front of the board for approval. It would be funding that would not incur any cost.
Okay, the motion on the table is to approve 5.5. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Motion to approve 5.6, giving the executive director permission to execute a new facilities lease.
Second.
So this one, this would be that you're trying to avoid having to call an emergency meeting. This in order to sign a new lease agreement. I remember earlier in the pandemic, PUSC, forget what powers they gave their superintendent, but they gave him a whole host of powers. that were kind of unusual, but due to the unprecedented situation, this seems kind of similar, because our existing rule is if anything is above, is it 10,000, you have to bring it to the board. So board, please ask, comment, discuss.
How hard would it be to have an emergency meeting?
Just have to post it 24 hours.
So as an example, sorry. Can I-
Yeah.
As an example, if we want to have a meeting tomorrow, we could have one if we get the agenda done, I guess maybe 9 o'clock, that would have to be posted in the next 40 minutes. I don't see us being able to do that. That's for tomorrow's meeting.
Right.
So there's a time element to this that I'm just aware of. I will not be making any decisions in isolation. I'm working with our attorney. Young Minnie and Core is the person, Sarah Coleman is the person that looks at all of these lease agreements, and I trust her judgment. We're also working with a company that is helping represent us.
I wonder if we want to have a subcommittee. We already have that subcommittee on budget that could advise if this passes, so that he's not, completely disconnected.
Follow-up question and a comment then. Follow-up question is, why would are you executing a lease tomorrow?
Potentially.
And that could not have a 20. Do you have a lease agreement that you already looked at?
I'm looking at it.
What could you share the details
Well, I would, yes, but I don't know if we would want to do that publicly. I think, yeah, I wouldn't be prepared to do that publicly.
I guess my comment is, I know that no one here is responsible for the APLA lease, but that is an instance of where board oversight kind of been
Helpful.
far more helpful, and I don't think you or anyone would intentionally redo that, but I also think having more eyes on executing a long-term or short-term lease would be better. And so I would object to blanket permission to execute leases without board approval.
I don't know if you can answer this question. With this lease agreement, is there a time frame at least that you can share, or is it something like we want to have a lease agreement until June because the space might open up in PUSD that will,
I can,
it won't cost us anything.
we're looking at a lease until July,
Okay.
no further.
Well, let me ask a really logistical question, because I hear what you're saying. We don't want to end up in another 15-year unfavorable lease. Two logistical questions. One, how quickly are the landlords needing a turnaround?
It's not a matter of the landlords needing a turnaround. It's a matter of 3, 4 private schools impacted and 3 charters impacted. And there aren't enough spaces for all of these schools to go into private facilities that are ready to go or somewhat ready to go.
So time is of the essence.
That's the other question I was going to ask was, what is our availability in the next couple of nights? Like, how many of us could show up to a meeting? I mean, tomorrow night, so I feel like it's already gone. We have to be posting the agenda.
But what about like a subcommittee of like board president, attorney, and someone else
Right.
Which I think
overlooking it?
Yeah, could we modify the action items you require?
Yeah.
Addition to the subcommittee?
Yeah. Well, you can also,
That way we don't need quorum.
I think, I don't know if we can, because the board can't like vote without whatever, like, a group, but I think it could be, we form that subcommittee and the purpose of that subcommittee is to offer him advice. The other thing we could do is we could modify it and put some guardrails, like not beyond whatever date, for example.
That might need
I
chaos.
think guardrails are good in theory, but very difficult if we're stuck with, we just voted in a board meeting that he can't sign a lease more than 9 months, and it's a 10-month lease or something.
Got it.
Yeah, why can't it be that we approve this motion with the caveat that the three members of the subcommittee have, like,
Advisory.
we're empowering the 3 subcommittee members with the.
I feel like that would be okay, but
I would volunteer for the subcommittee.
Yeah.
I am not sure if that works, but if it does, I would be happy.
I mean, I already volunteered here, so.
Right now, no.
well, okay, I mean, we could approve this, and then in closed session, when we're gonna talk about his performance, we could come out of that and create a subcommittee to advise on the lease.
Could we move this into closed session?
Can we vote?
Facilities is part of his performance, so that discussion can surely be.
I mean,
part
this
of that.
item could,
So we could, oh God, I wish EB was here. Which is our attorney on board protocols. I don't see why we can't form a subcommittee under this, right? So we approve permission. If we modify it, let's plan it out. We could amend the motion to read approve permission for executive director to execute a new facilities agreement in consultation with the subcommittee of the board to include whoever's going to be on that subcommittee.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
sounds good.
Then I move
To amend.
to amend. Can someone write it? 'Cause I can't talk at the same time.
taking
Okay.
notes.
I move to amend the motion to say approve permission, et cetera, as it is, in consultation with the subcommittee of the board. I'm giving her a chance. To include, who's gonna be on it? We can have 3. Conley,
Sure.
Javier,
Anyone?
and I volunteer myself.
Okay.
I've been here the longest, so I have
And I would further
suffered under that other lease.
motion, or do you want to continue amending it? 'Cause I think
So-
it needs a sunset. So that it has to end.
Okay, so let's continue it. In consultation with the board to include these 3 people by,
I don't need to say by, it has to be a new sentence and say this permission, this approval shall expire as
Okay.
of.
so period after my name, this approval shall expire on
June 1st, 2025.
June 1st, 2025. So the motion on the table is to amend the original motion to read, approve permission for executive director to execute a new facilities lease agreement and consultation with subcommittee of the board to include Cotton Lidl, I keep mispronouncing your name, Lidl, okay, Javier Guzman, Elsie Rivas Gomez, period. What did we say then, Shamika?
Permission of this approval shall expire 6/1/2025.
Perfect.
Second.
Second. Discussion. The motion on the table is to approve the amendment to the original motion. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Now we're back to the original motion, which is to approve 5.5, the language of which has now been.
5.6.
Thank you, 5.6, the language of which has now been amended. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. I think we did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Expertly done.
Whew,
Well done. Well
thank you. I don't know how many years I've been doing this, but that part's always really hard. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our open session. What's going to happen next is we can go into another room for closed session. What I will say as a spoiler, in respect for everybody's time, is that when we come out of that closed session, I will 99% most likely say, No action was taken, there is nothing to report, and I will adjourn the meeting. So you are welcome to stay for that, I don't know, 45 minutes maybe, but you also don't have to. So, yeah, I make a motion to take a 5-minute break. There's a bathroom right there. Second, anybody?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, let's take 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll take you.
Thank you. I was trying helping me. I'm like, what? I know there's a way to do this. I'm gonna get things in the right order.
Are you all aware of the event that PUSD is hosting tomorrow at 2? So I called PUSD today, and I told them to not call Aveson noise. I agree with you, just write a letter saying don't do it. Don't inflect it. But send it to the head of the school board and every member of the school board. And anybody you consider 2 sentences, 6 sentences, no inflection, don't do it. I said don't do it. They said nobody's doing it. I'm not saying, but they also were very acceptable, by the way, USC.